Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Criterion, your channel which exclusively previews forthcoming Criterion releases. This week we look at the 1984 film Choose Me, directed by Alan Rudolph, joining the collection for the first time on 4K UHD.
Now you know we've both been through a lot today. And that's why we need to just sit back and enjoy this evening. So if you'll choose me, then you're my choice tonight.
Alan Stephen Rudolph was an LA-born director and screenwriter, and he was a protege of Robert Altman. He worked on Altman's adaptation of The Long Goodbye and later on Nashville. His films focus on isolated and eccentric characters and their relationships, and his films often feature romanticism and fantasy, for which he writes his own screenplays. Choose Me is his debut feature and the film that brought him to prominence. It stars Lesley-Ann Warren as an ex-prostitute bar owner and Genevieve Bujold as an emotionally repressed radio talk show hostess, and a disalarmingly honest madman played in the film by Keith Carradine. Now, the film looks at sex and love in 1980s Los Angeles in a bar called Eve's Lounge. Genevieve Bujold plays Dr. Love. She's a radio talk show host who doles out sex advice to her mostly female clientele with the muted enthusiasm of one who's tired of her job. Taking a shine to an impassioned phone call from an unlucky in love bar owner, that's Lesley-Ann Warren, she runs a dive joint named Eve's, and she wants some advice about the older married lover, Zach Patrick Bacall. She is tired of waiting for, it seems, inspiration to find her own. Deciding to embark on an adventure, Dr. Love seeks the company of Eve at her job, but pretends to be Alice, an intellectual woman looking for a roommate. Both ladies meet a handsome new customer, Mickey, Keith Carradine, in Frederick March mode. He's a man with considerable secrets who comes to look for the bar's previous owner, also named Eve. Meanwhile, another bar patron, the overly curious Pearl, Ray Don Chong, whiles away her time at the bar writing poetry in a notebook, and she's also enamoured with Mickey and is eventually revealed as the wife of Zach, decked out in an apartment filled with classic movie posters, including some fitting All About Eve motifs, while a man, handled Elizabeth Scott in a Too Late for Tears print, looms forbiddingly in the background of a beaten Ray Don Chong. Now, the interesting thing about Choose Me is the inherent intrigue throughout the film. There is hardly a moment in the whole film when you know for sure what is actually going to happen next, but yet it doesn't manipulate the viewer, and it appears to be totally spontaneous throughout. Choose Me is a deliberate throwback to the film noir of the 1940s, to those movies made up of dark streets and wet pavements, hookers under street lamps, pimps in shiny post-war Studebakers, and people who smoke a lot. It's also about lonely people, but it's not one of those half-witted television movies about singles bars and single women. Instead, it's about smart, complicated people who are trying to clear a space for themselves and use romance as an excavating tool. Now, the performances are key to this strategy. The best thing in the movie is Genevieve Bujold's performance as Dr. Love. She's interesting, if detached as a radio personality, but when love finally does touch her life, she's so unabashedly open and confessional and red-faced and sincere that we want to hug her. Now, Bujold just gets better and better, coming so soon after her recent work before that, Tightrope. Now, this is a reminder of how many kinds of roles that she can actually play. Keith Carradine is the drifter with the dangerous past. Now, we're never quite sure how seriously to take him, and that's the idea behind his performance, really, I think. He's able to quite sincerely tell two different women he loves them and wants to marry them. And the funny thing is, we actually believe him both times. Eve, the former hooker who owns the bar, is played by Lesley-Ann Warren, and it's another good performance here from her. Nervous and on edge, she's the kind of woman who seeks a different man every night as a protection against winding up with the same guy for the whole lifetime in a row. And there are other intriguing characters in this story as well, most notably Ray Dawn Chong. She's a cute young alcoholic with a weird marriage, a naive way of trusting strangers, and dreamy plans of becoming a poet someday. Her husband, Patrick Macau, begins to really get tired of seeing the Carradine character. Through a series of misunderstandings, he seems to specialise in robbing him of poker pots, dates, and attentions of his wife. Now, all of these people interact throughout the whole movie without ever setting into familiar patterns. It's as if Rudolph wanted to tell a story with Choose Me that it might have happened, with coincidental meetings, dumb misunderstandings, random chance encounters, and the endless surprises of human nature. And at the end of the movie, we haven't really learned anything at all, but we have met these people and their loneliness and punch-drunk optimism, and we've followed them a little time through the night. Now, the theme song to the film, You're My Choice Tonight, Choose Me, plays over the opening titles, and it's produced by Luther Vandross and performed by Philadelphia international star Teddy Pendergrass, a typical 80s soul tune, but very suited to the film's style. Rudolph produced the film on a budget of only $835,000, and the film was screened out of competition at the 1984 Cannes Film Festival. Alan Rudolph went on to make Trouble in Mind in 1985, which, next to Choose Me, is one of his more recognisable works, where he again works with Keith Carradine. Mortal Thoughts from 1991 is another film of his, with Demi Moore and Bruce Willis. He is one of those Hollywood directors that produced many good to mediocre neo-noir films in his career. Choose Me is a funny and surprising meditation on love, sex, lies, truth, and eccentric mid-80s Los Angeles relationships. It's centred on Eve's lounge pickup dive bar, stylishly directed by Rudolph, with a feast of fine acting, and it is gorgeously photographed by the cinematographer Jan Kieser in a neon-lit LA. Supervised by director Alan Rudolph and producer David Blocker, this new 4K restoration was created from the 35mm original camera negative. The original mono soundtrack was remastered from the 35mm DME magnetic track. The feature is presented in Dolby Vision HDR, that's high dynamic range, on the 4K Ultra HD, and a high definition SDR, that's standard dynamic range, on the Blu-ray. The disc has limited special features, which are a new conversation between Rudolph and actor Keith Carradine, new programme featuring interviews with Rudolph, producer Carolyn Pfeiffer, Blocker, and production designer Stephen Legler. Excerpts from an interview with Rudolph at the Midnight Sun Film Festival, and an essay written by the critic Beatrice Loizia, and cover art is based on the original theatrical poster for the film. Choose Me has a running time of 106 minutes and comes new to the collection with an aspect ratio of 185:1, and it releases in the US only on Tuesday the 25th of March as Spine 1256. And next time on Let's Talk Criterion, we'll take a look at the late Gene Hackman film Night Moves from 1975. It's directed by Arthur Penn, coming to the collection in 4K UHD. So until then, from me, as always, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.